Cheating is never just some slip of the tongue, some accidental stumble, or a random lapse in judgment. It is not the same as forgetting an anniversary or saying something harsh in the heat of the moment. Cheating is deliberate. It is a conscious choice followed by another and then another until it forms a chain of decisions that all point in the same direction: betrayal. People like to dress it up as a mistake because the word sounds softer, easier to swallow, and far less damning. But the truth is, you don't just wake up in someone else's bed or suddenly decide to share your heart with someone outside your relationship. It starts with little permission she gives herself, replying to a message she knows she shouldn't, entertaining a conversation that feels a little too intimate, withholding something from you because it might raise questions. Each of these is a decision, small enough to justify in her own mind, but together they create the pathway that leads to full-scale betrayal. And here's the part most men refuse to accept: no matter how skilled she is at hiding it, she cannot cheat without leaving behind a trail. There will always be signs. They may not show up in dramatic, obvious ways, but they exist in her tone, her energy, her presence, the way she interacts with you. The problem isn't that men can't see them. It's that most men don't want to. They'd rather cling to hope, tell themselves she's just tired, just stressed, just distracted, than face the truth staring them down. Hope blinds them. They want so badly for the relationship to still be what it once was that they ignore the shifts happening right in front of them. But denial never protects a man, it only delays his heartbreak. The first real shift you'll notice when a woman begins to pull away isn't in her schedule or her routine, it's in her presence. She doesn't suddenly vanish, stop coming home, or cut off all contact. In fact, on the surface, nothing looks that different. She still does the normal things, goes through the motions, shares the same physical space with you. But if you're paying attention, you'll feel it in the air between you before you see it with your eyes. The warmth that once flowed easily is gone. Where she used to lean in close without thinking, now there's a subtle but undeniable distance. Where her eyes once lingered on you with affection, they now skim past as though looking through you instead of at you. It's not always dramatic, but it's consistent, and that consistency reveals what's happening beneath the surface. When you ask her what's wrong, she'll almost never give you the real answer. She'll say she's just tired, in a weird mood, maybe stressed from work. On the outside, the excuses sound harmless. But the truth is, it isn't exhaustion you're seeing, it's the beginning of emotional withdrawal. Her mind is wandering to another place, and she doesn't want to admit that to you or even to herself yet. You'll feel her energy cooling, the affection shrinking, the way she no longer seems fully present when she's right beside you. That is the first stage of betrayal, not the act of cheating itself, but the quiet, invisible disconnect that comes long before. Her body stays near, but her heart is already drifting somewhere else. And if you're grounded, if you trust your instincts, you'll know it. The change is subtle, but it is real, and it's always the beginning. When the emotional distance starts growing, the next layer that reveals itself is defensiveness. Suddenly, the smallest, most innocent questions turn into battles. You ask her where she's been, not because you suspect anything, but because you care, and she reacts like you've crossed a line. What used to be normal curiosity between two people in love now feels like an interrogation in her eyes. She twists your concern into an accusation, and instead of easing your mind, she punishes you for even asking. Why don't you trust me? Why are you acting controlling? She shifts the blame so quickly that you end up questioning yourself instead of her. That's not love speaking, that's guilt trying to cover its tracks. Another classic sign is her relationship with her phone. Think back, when she was fully loyal, her phone was nothing more than a tool. It sat face up on the table, she'd laugh at memes with you, show you pictures, share messages without hesitation. Now it's different. The phone becomes a fortress. It's always face down, notifications mysteriously silenced, passwords suddenly changed. She takes it everywhere, even to the bathroom, like it's a lifeline. She's not guarding her privacy, she's guarding her secrets. Loyal women don't treat their phones like hidden vaults. Only women who have something to protect from you act this way. Then there's projection, another mask guilt wears. Out of nowhere, she might ask you if you're seeing someone else, or accuse you of being distant, or question your loyalty. At first it seems like insecurity, but it's deeper than that. She's projecting her own betrayal onto you. If she can convince herself you might be guilty too, then hers won't feel as heavy. These reactions aren't random, they're cracks in the mask. As the distance grows, something even more corrosive starts to seep in: contempt. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly the way she talks to you changes. Where there was once softness, patience, and warmth, there is now sharpness. Her jokes are no longer playful, they cut a little deeper, carrying hidden barbs. She becomes less gentle in her tone, less forgiving in her words. You'll notice her patience with you dwindles, and instead of addressing issues openly, she slips into sarcasm and passive-aggressive remarks. It may feel subtle at first, almost harmless, but it's not. It's her mind beginning to justify betrayal. See, for her to feel okay stepping outside the relationship, she has to create a story where you are the problem. If you become the emotionally unavailable one, the distant one, the boring one, then she doesn't feel like a traitor, she feels like a victim. At the same time, her emotional energy begins to shift. She used to run to you with everything: her stress, her thoughts, her random daily stories. You were her emotional outlet. Now she keeps things vague, surface level, or shuts down with lines like, "It's nothing," or, "I don't want to talk about it." Don't fool yourself into thinking she suddenly has less to say. She hasn't stopped needing to share, she's just stopped sharing with you. Somewhere else, someone else is now getting that access. And that's how it begins, first with her words, then with her emotions, and eventually with her body. Emotional cheating nearly always comes before physical betrayal, because intimacy isn't just about touch, it's about access. Once another man has the parts of her that used to be yours, her heart has already started migrating, whether she admits it or not. One of the most revealing shifts, and often one men overlook, comes in her appearance and the world she surrounds herself with. Change in appearance by itself isn't always suspicious as people evolve, experiment with styles, and grow into new versions of themselves. But when the transformation is sudden, sharp, and disconnected from the relationship, it carries weight. A woman who once dressed casually may suddenly take an intense interest in lingerie, in bold new wardrobes, in perfumes she's never worn before, or even in a hairstyle so different it almost feels like she's trying to become someone else. The key isn't the change itself, it's the reason behind it. When the compliments don't land with you, when she brushes off your praise or even seems annoyed that you noticed, it's because you're no longer the audience she's dressing for. Her mirror has become her new partner, and in her mind, she's testing how she feels in another man's orbit. But it doesn't stop at appearance. Her circle of friends often changes as well. Nights out with the girls become more frequent, but the details become thinner. She comes home later but tells you less. When you ask, the answers are vague, and the stories feel incomplete. Even when you meet the friends, something feels off. They smile too tightly, exchange awkward glances, or act overly casual around you, like they're hiding a truth they don't want to say out loud. Sometimes they're covering for her, other times they simply know more than they're comfortable admitting. Either way, the shift in her social world mirrors the shift inside her. You're no longer her anchor. Her appearance, her energy, even her friends are aligning with a life she's slowly building away from you. The signs that she's slipping away don't always come in one big explosion. More often, they show up in the small, everyday details that used to hold your relationship together. One of the clearest indicators is how she stops making plans with you. In the past, the future was something you built together, talks about vacations, holidays, even small things like next weekend dinners were part of the bond. Now, her answers are vague. "Let's see," or "I'm not sure yet," becomes the new default. It's not that she suddenly hates planning, it's that she doesn't know if you're part of her future anymore. Dreaming together makes her uncomfortable because she's already dreaming with someone else in her head. You'll also notice how she reacts, or doesn't react, to your presence. You used to come home late and she would check in, maybe worry, maybe even playfully question you. Now, she doesn't notice or doesn't care. You could disappear for hours, even days, and instead of leaning closer, she leans further away. That's not maturity. That's detachment. It's a quiet form of absence that tells you her investment has already shifted. Another painful shift shows up when you win. In the past, your victories were her victories. She celebrated your promotions, your personal growth, your successes with pride. Now, she barely acknowledges them, or worse, downplays them with sarcasm or dismissive comments. It's not that she doesn't see your growth. It's that your growth threatens the story she's telling herself to justify her distance. And then there's intimacy. She flinches at touch, avoids kisses, turns away in bed. When she does engage, it feels mechanical, like a duty. Her body is there, but her heart isn't. This everyday erosion is how betrayal shows itself: quiet, consistent, undeniable. Eventually, the distance grows into something colder, an emotional shutdown that feels like a wall you can't climb. She no longer offers the emotional safety she once did. In the beginning, she was the person you could confide in, the one who listened when you were weighed down, who held space for you without judgment. Now, that version of her is gone. She doesn't ask how your day was, doesn't care about your stresses, and when you try to open up, she either brushes it off or twists your vulnerability into weakness. What once felt like a partnership begins to feel like standing alone in a room with someone who doesn't see you anymore. At the same time, irritation starts replacing affection. The small habits she used to love or overlook now seem to annoy her. The way you laugh, the way you eat, even the things you've always done suddenly become reasons for her to roll her eyes or snap. You haven't changed, her tolerance has. That's the result of comparison. When a woman begins investing emotionally in another man, she subconsciously measures you against him. Instead of admitting her shift, she rewrites her feelings by turning you into the problem. Then comes the language of separation disguised as growth. She'll start saying things like, "I just need to focus on myself," or, "I'm learning to love me again." On the surface, it sounds noble, even empowering. But pay attention: if her self-growth excludes you, if she's using it as a shield to create distance without accountability, it's not transformation. It's transition. She's emotionally preparing to exit the relationship, and she wants to do it without feeling like the villain. That shutdown isn't just space, it's the slow erasure of the bond you once shared. When you begin to notice the cracks and try to address them, the next stage reveals itself in manipulation. This is when she turns herself into the victim in every conversation. You bring up your concerns, not to accuse but to understand, and suddenly you're the problem. You ask for transparency, and she calls you controlling. You say you're feeling disconnected, and she mocks you for being too sensitive. What you're witnessing isn't miscommunication, it's strategy. She's flipping the script so she never has to face what she's really doing. The more you push for clarity, the more she punishes you emotionally. It's not that your instincts are wrong, it's that her guilt can't handle exposure. During this stage, she often starts playing a dangerous balancing act. She hasn't fully let you go, because she still benefits from your stability, your presence, your role as her safe foundation. At the same time, she's emotionally, or even physically, testing the waters elsewhere. You become her safety net. She'll keep you close enough to prevent you from walking away, but distant enough that she can enjoy the freedom of her double life. This is why you feel like you're always chasing answers but never getting them. She dangles just enough affection or attention to keep you hoping, while withholding the truth that would shatter the illusion. The cruelest part is the calmness with which she carries it out. She doesn't have to scream, doesn't have to argue every day. Instead, she floats above you with a detached smirk, as if your confusion and pain are problems you created for yourself. What she's really doing is buying time, keeping her options open, keeping her escape plan secure. And if you stay blind to it, you'll end up trapped in her half-love, while she fully invests elsewhere. The final stage isn't about catching her in the act or forcing her to confess, it's about you realizing your own worth. Too many men wait for undeniable proof, for the phone screenshot, for the guilty admission, as if those things will finally give them closure. But the truth is, you don't need her confession to validate what your instincts already know. A woman who has betrayed you, whether emotionally or physically, has already spoken with her actions. Her absence, her withdrawal, her indifference, that's the confession. The only question left is whether you'll respect yourself enough to act on it. The moment you see that you've become an afterthought in your own relationship is the moment you need to decide. When your presence no longer matters, when your wins don't inspire her, when your touch doesn't move her, you are no longer her partner, you are her placeholder. And staying in that role only destroys you. It chips away at your confidence, makes you doubt your instincts, and keeps you tied to a ghost of the connection that once existed. This is why men break down, not just from the cheating itself, but from fighting to hold on to something that has already slipped away. Walking away isn't about revenge, punishment, or trying to make her regret what she did. It's about reclaiming your power and honoring yourself. You leave because you deserve honesty, respect, and presence, not secrecy, excuses, and